What's going on with EA these days? Sandra, do you want to lead on the discussions with EA here?
Yeah, so let's just start at the very, very high level. EA is a really interesting company overall, one of the oldest games publishers that is still around, slow and steady growth. Do you want to talk about sort of where they've been, how they're doing overall, and what are their core levers for growth going forward, Josh?
Yeah, so they have marginally increased their net bookings, just a few percentage points over the years, and they've had about a 3% year-on-year growth for live services. And primarily that's all driven by their sports franchises, right? So they've really kind of become the Maddens of the world, are really kind of carrying them forward, right? So that's where they're kind of at. So they've kind of been power lawed into, making sure that Madden kind of persists and it's doing all these bits. And so that's kind of where they've been at, right? And so I think overall, they're really recognizing that a few things are like super, super important. They need to leverage current industry trends, right? And so that's kind of like focusing on live services. They're trying to like expand player acquisition, right? Through either like new licensing deals with like college football and stuff like that. And they're also trying to enhance like the digital and live services systems. They're also kind of, going into some headwinds against what potentially could happen on mobile with iOS and, kind of managing, all those bits. But then they're also releasing new titles, but being ruthless with maintaining cost discipline, right? So they're really kind of playing the accounting book hard. And I think that's what's going to be important for them, right? Live services are what makes sense. Their flagship titles are what's kind of carrying them forward, and doing so with good cost discipline is going to keep them winning in the long run.
Right. So they're sort of the ultimate franchise-driven, up there with the top in terms of like franchise-driven hits, right? So they've been doing the same Madden. FIFA, until very recently, it was obviously their marquee product. They've managed to transition to the FC franchise. But, the live services model obviously makes a ton of sense for them. And they're pretty much masters in the capacity to operate that. One of the things I thought was most interesting about the article you wrote was the thoughts that you put around college football, right? Because they're trying to launch a new college football product. And one of the points you made in the article was like, hey, is there room for a second major football franchise at EA? And, I don't know. Do you have any additional thought about whether or not there's a long tail there? Can they expand? You can obviously see they can use their existing engine, a lot of their existing engine, to expand to a college football game. Do you think that's additive, or is that going to be cannibalizing their core product?
When I think about a good ad, it usually has one call to action. And I think kind of having the NFL and college, it kind of actually tarnishes the brand, because then there's confusion of which one do I go to. And maybe they have to set it up where it's almost like seasonal, where like they really push Madden during the NFL season, but then college football is running at the same time. So how do you kind of manage those narratives? How do you manage live services and the event cadence and structure around that? And I think it blurs the lines and adds actually a lot of customer confusion. So I'm a little bit concerned with those things, because typically you want to point your users to like one thing and then continue to do those things. Now, I get that some people are going to have larger affinity towards the NFL or larger affinity towards college football, but I think it's usually best to kind of focus on one particular thing.
Yeah, definitely agree. I thought about this deeply, but it's really interesting to think about how you can get economies of scale from their existing core technology, which is their football engine, and what are additional products that they can staple into that.